The Joseph Series, Story Number 5, Joseph Interprets Dreams, taken from Genesis chapter 40, verses 1 through 23. God's plan for Joseph's life continues to unfold in this story. Because of his position in the prison, which we found out was actually part of Potiphar's house, Joseph becomes the caretaker of two powerful Egyptian officers, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker, when they offend the king. In the ancient world, the cupbearer was a trusted personal attendant to the king. However, this influential position came with significant danger. Because of the threat of poisoning, the cupbearer tasted the royal wine and food before it was served to the king. For the same reason, the chief baker also needed to be a person whom the king could trust. The subject of dreams is also reintroduced in this story. One must wonder how often Joseph thought back to the dreams of his youth. If dreams come from an anxious mind, it is not difficult to see what is on the mind of Pharaoh's officers. It is also interesting to see how God used the importance of dreams and their interpretation in the Egyptian culture in this story. Sometime after this, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt committed an offense against their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and he put them in custody in Potiphar's house, the same prison where Joseph was confined. Then Potiphar appointed Joseph to watch over them and serve Pharaoh's officers, and the cupbearer and the baker remained in custody for some time. Then one night they both had a dream, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison. Each man had his own dream, and each dream had its own interpretation. In the morning, when Joseph came in to serve them, he could see that they were troubled. So Joseph asked Pharaoh's officers, who were with him in custody in his master's house, "Why do your faces look so sad today?" And the cupbearer and baker said to Joseph, "We have dreamed dreams, and there is no one to tell us what they mean." And Joseph said to them, "Don't interpretations belong to God? Please, tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream and said, "In my dream I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As I watched, the branches produced buds, and the buds blossomed, and they grew into clusters of ripe grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, so I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup into Pharaoh's hand." And Joseph told the cupbearer, "This is what your dream means. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you will put Pharaoh's cup into his hand, just as you used to when you were his cupbearer. So, please, remember me. When things go well for you, please do me this one kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh, so I can get out of this house, because I was stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and even here I haven't done anything that they should put me into this pit." Now when the chief baker saw that the interpretation of the cupbearer's dream was favorable, he said to Joseph, "I also had a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the top basket there were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh. But the birds were eating the food out of the basket on my head." And Joseph answered the baker and said, "This is what your dream means. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head from off of you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from off your body. 3 days later it was Pharaoh's birthday, and Pharaoh held a feast for all of his officials, and he lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. And Pharaoh restored the chief cupbearer to his former position, and once again he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But Pharaoh hanged the chief baker, just as Joseph had interpreted to them. But the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot all about him. The Joseph Series, Story number 5, Joseph Interprets Dreams, taken from Genesis chapter 40, verses 1 through 23.